Hello and welcome to another episode of Boundary. In today's episode, we will talk about to what extent do people have free will? Do people have free will or not? So some philosophers believe that everything is causally determined. No one acts freely. These include hard determinists, who were also materialists, but materialists who believes that everything is made up of materials, made up of particles which are determined by the force exerts on it. They also believe in causal determinism, which has the principle that every event is the consequence of past events and the law of nature. The world unfolds dictate to the law of nature. So they doesn't deny that we seems to have some kind of free will, but in their sense, free will is only an illusion. They believe causal determinism is incompatible with free will, since if causal determinism is true, then every event is the consequence of past event plus the law of nature. We cannot alter past events or the law of nature. Thus, we cannot alter their consequences, which includes our actions. Since we cannot change our actions, then we cannot act freely. Therefore, if causal determinism is true, we can't act freely. If we do not act freely, then we aren't responsible for our actions. Then our actions, they believe, were caused by irresistible impulses. There is, however, a serious problem with hard determinism. It does not align with our moral traditions or our moral expectations. For instance, under hard determinism, one would agree on practices like eugenics. Eugenics are like those to seek to improve our genetic makeup of the human race by either promoting good genes or eliminating bad ones. There is also serious problem with responsibility, since no one has responsibility under hard determinism. That brings us to another group of philosophers, the compatibilists. Compatibilists believe that determined actions can nevertheless be free. It does not require giving up either the belief in causal determinism or the belief in free will. So first, regarding problem of responsibility, they propose the principle of alternative possibility. One can be held responsible for doing something only if one could have done it otherwise. Having the ability to do otherwise, therefore, is a necessary condition of acting free. Traditional compatibilism is a type of compatibilism. There is two conditions that must be met for a person's actions to be free. Firstly, the action must be caused by one's will. Secondly, it must not be externally constrained. If the action is not caused by one's will, then she didn't bring it about, then she didn't perform it. Basic insight behind compatibilist accounts of free will is that to act freely is to do what you want to do. Let us now assume the scenario where a bank teller was being robbed in a bank. The robber has a gun pointed at his head. If he is a loyal employee, he doesn't want to give the robber the money. If he does, we don't blame him because he was forced to do it against his will. Compatibilists then take freedom to consist in the absence of external compulsion or coercion. This type of freedom is often referred to as negative freedom or freedom from, because it takes freedom to consist in the absence of certain impediments to action. Freedom in general may be defined as the absence of obstacles to the realization of desires. In the traditional compatibilist view, the three acts are all caused by desires or motives, or by some sort of internal psychological state of the agent's mind. The unfreed acts, on the other hand, are all caused by physical forces or physical conditions outside the agent. There is a difference between causally determining and externally constraining. There are still problems with compatibilism. The problem regarding punishment. Determinists do not think there is any responsibility of people, so they do not allow punishment. But compatibilists believes causal determinism poses no such threat to punishment and reward measures. For them, the only legitimate purpose of punishment are rehabilitation and deterrence. For a compatibilist point of view, retribution is not a legit reason for punishment. Retributive punishment makes sense only if it is deserved. But as a compatibilist, no one deserves to be punished because nothing they do is up to them. Their actions are still caused by force beyond their control. However, as compatibilists believe in causal determinism, they have no grounds for not locking up someone they have good reasons to believe that is going to commit a crime in the future. That is the case of pre-punishment. As we have seen from the movie Minority Report, who depicts a scenario where some humans have the power of precognitions who see the futures before it happens and would direct pre-crime police to the scenes where they capture the criminals in advance. Compatibilists would agree on such judgments since they believe it is rightful to do so, but it does not align with our traditional beliefs regarding punishments. Let us assume another scenario. Imagine there is an ingenious physiologist that could put desires into one's mind. We suppose that the physiologist order you to put a rifle in your hands and point it to a random person. Then he puts in this kind of volition or desire in your head that orders you to push the button, push the trigger, and then the person you point the rifle at is dead. Since the physiologist does not directly cause your actions or the death of the person, he should not be responsible of the action according to compatibilists. He only directly causes your desires. By using the technique he has, he does not pushes your hand to move, he only gives you the desire to push the trigger. However, you in this scenario is responsible for your actions that is killing the person because you have the desire and you act according to the desire. This is not quite understandable in today's standards since we all think the physiologists have some kind of responsibility of your action. So an adjustment is made to compatibilism. That is hierarchical compatibilism. It divides desire into three things. One is the first order desire, which is the normal desire, a desire directed on an object or a state of affairs. There is also the second order desire, which are desires directed on the previous first order desires. And most importantly, there is the second order volition or motive. That is, one wishing that one of the second order desire became the cause of one's action. That is, acting upon a second order desire that one wishes to act upon. To act freely according to hierarchical compatibilists is to act on a second order volition. If you do not formulate second order volitions, or if you do not act on ones that you do form, your actions are not free. You are slaves to your first order desires. To actually get to know what it is, we will use the example of three addicts. The three addicts act normally the same as any other kind of addicts of a drug. They are kind of controlled by the drug, but there is difference between these three addicts. The first addict is an unwilling addict. He hates his addictions. He always struggles desperately, but he is not successful against the desires created by the drugs. Those desires are too powerful for him to withstand. These desires conquer him. He has an unwilling desire. He is helplessly violated by his own desires. In this case, he had second order desires, which he wants to get rid of this kind of first order desire of the drug. But he does not act upon a certain second order desire. Does he, in a hierarchical compatibilism's view, he is not free. Then is the wanton addict. His reflection reflects his first order desires. He is not concerned whether the desire moves him to act or the desire he wants to act upon. If he encounters problems in obtaining the drug, his responses to his urges to take it may involve deliberation, but it never occurs to him to consider whether he wants the relation among his desires to result in his having the will that he has. In this case, the wanton addict does not have a second order desire. He merely has first order desires. He is more of an animal than of a person. He is definitely not free since he doesn't even have second order desire, not to say second order volitions. The third addict was a little different too. It is the happy addict. The third addict is the happy addict. He is altogether delighted with his conditions. He is a willing addict who would not have things any other way. If he somehow gets weaker on his addictions, he would do whatever he could to reinstate it. That is, if his desire for the drug begin to fade, he would take steps to renew its intensity. The happy addict acts on his second order volitions to take the drugs. So, hierarchical compatibilist wills, he is totally free. Hierarchical compatibilists, as we can see, can also explain why animals are not considered to be free. Animals may well be conscious, but they do not seem self-conscious. They do not formulate second-order desires as in the wanton addict. Let us return to the ingenious physiologist's case. In this case, we can see that the physiologist put in a desire into your mind. Therefore, in this case, you do not have a second order desire or do not act upon your second order desire. Thus, according to hierarchical compatibilism, you are not free and not responsible for your actions. However, the physiologist can somehow be responsible for your actions since he puts in the desires. If he is conscious and willing to do so, therefore he can somehow be responsible for your actions of killing the person. However, there is still questions regarding compatibilism and hierarchical compatibilism, that is, causal determinism, which they assume in the first place. There is a lot of new studies on quantum level physics that suggests a potential that not all events are the consequences of past events plus the law of nature. There is some events that are not the consequence of past events, and plus the law of nature, there's some randomness to this. This brings about a new type of belief, which is in determinism.